Welcome back to Talon Talk. This is episode 26 after a brief time away with spring break. Certainly a lot has happened and a lot has changed since our last episode due to the developments associated with COVID-19. The spring seasons have come to an early end, and players, coaches, staff members, and more are determining the next step forward. We are going to continue to bring these episodes to you, and in the meantime, across our social media platforms and on our website, we will still bring more content out there, so stay tuned for that content that will celebrate the successes of this past year, sharing what everyone is up to, and promoting the championships, individual accomplishments, and more from years in the past throughout UNF history. But today, we're going to hear from two members of our strength and conditioning staff, Coach Brian Bert, head strength and conditioning coach, and Coach Colin Corcoran, assistant strength and conditioning coach. We're going to discuss the changes in their work world, their thoughts on the situation, and how they're handling it. Our physical and mental health is also very important right now, so learning some tips and tricks to staying in shape at home will also be discussed. So thank you guys for talking about this today. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us on.
Doing great, man. Thanks for having us here.
So obviously, as we know, you don't have to do too much research to know what's going on in the college sports world and in the world in general, with COVID-19 and the cancellations and the changes for a lot of different departments. But as we just talked with you guys, saying it's business as usual, or trying to treat it as business as usual and going about your work, just give us a glimpse into and what that means for you guys right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, it's a little different for everybody, but we do try to maintain it as business as usual. One of the things our department is built on is culture creates championships, and we try to create a culture in the athletes every single day that they're prepared for life, and this is as life as you can get. So it's important that we prepare them every day for their games, their challenges, things like that, but as well as taking on these new opportunities and being able to succeed in those areas as well. So when I say business as usual, I mean, it's a summer break, it's a Christmas break, it's a road game. Coaches can't play for them, we can't train for them. So this is kind of what we always prep them for on a daily basis. So kind of just giving them tools every single day to then step out into life and kind of take their own take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are some of the things that you guys have already done since this happened? I think March 11th or 12th.
Yeah, like you said, it came up in a weird time for us because it was going into spring break, so our athletes were kind of heading off campus anyway. The first thing, obviously, when it came out, we wanted to get something in our athletes' hands immediately, so we took current phases that we were in. Obviously, gyms were still open at that time, and immediately got those out right away so that they could just keep on going with what we were doing in the weight room, and hopefully a lot of them continue to do that. And then, obviously, as more news started to come out, that's when we started to look at more adaptive programming. Things that they could use at home, on their own, wherever it may be, type of thing, whatever their situation is. So, and again, I think a lot of the tools that we prep them with every single day is what kind of gives them that toolbox or so to be able to do those things on their own without necessarily having our guidance every day.
Mm-hmm. Speaking as somebody in athletics communications, and then goes for pretty much every department that makes the athletic department run, whether it's marketing, whether it's sports medicine, whether it's student athlete academic performance, and across the nation. How are you guys in your field communicating? Do you guys communicate with the kind of other strength and conditioning professionals and talk about strategies right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think our field is absolutely amazing for this. Strength and conditioning in the sports performance world is growing so rapidly. So a lot of conferences and seminars have been canceled, so everything's going to online. A lot of people are doing it for free right now. So the education is out there and it's everywhere, and that's awesome and exciting for us. Obviously, in a collegiate strength and conditioning world, we don't always have the most time. So it's nice to be able to kind of have this time and reach out to mentors and other schools and kind of see what they do and talk shop. So strength coaches right now, first and foremost, across the field, are very, very giving of knowledge. Anytime you meet them, talk to them, they're very happy and open to share what they do. So every single day I'm seeing new podcasts and new Zoom meetings and all sorts of stuff, sports specific or overall general strength and conditioning knowledge based stuff. So I mean, it's incredible what the field is doing, and obviously the fitness field is booming, and it's been booming for years, but at a time like this, it's crazy that you see stores sold out of weights and sold out of all this stuff as far as at home types of things. But again, for us, it's business as usual. You know, it's a part of our life. It's a way of life for us, and it's started to become a way of life for everybody. So that's awesome that fitness is a big thing like that. We just try to continue to educate in the correct manner, because obviously there's a lot of different avenues for information out there, and we want to make sure our athletes can certainly filter through what's good to do and what's not good to do, and hopefully put themselves in the best position.
What are some of those things that you've already tried to implement or just reinforce with student athletes right now?
Yeah, so kind of like what Coach Bert talked about, as it being like a road game or a summer or winter break, you know, we understand that that's self-driven. Obviously, we can't play the game for them. We can't do the training for them. And that's what we pride ourselves in every day, is kind of teaching that to them and instilling that the knowledge base too. Because it's one thing to just give them a workout, but if they don't understand where it's coming from, they're not going to know what to do when they go home. So that's obviously something that's a responsibility on our end. You know, we sprint, we jump, we push, we pull, we hinge, we squat. You know, we do everything. But we always want to make sure we're educating the athletes why we're doing it, how they're supposed to be doing it, you know, what they should be feeling. And then obviously, you know, we said we're not going to hold their hand, but they know we have that open line of communication. They are more than comfortable reaching out to us. A lot of our athletes for our specific teams have reached out to us just with a couple certain questions, things that they could do, kind of getting outside the box. But like Coach Bird did touch on, we sent out a program for weight training at first, and then obviously once the gym started getting closed, we also then sent out what we call our body weight manual. So how that works is it's basically a menu selection of all the exercises that they're more than familiar with us, that they've been doing for months on end, and it's just kind of putting it in a systematic order so that they can go about it and train the right way. So what I mean by that is, like, the menu will start with something at the beginning of a workout. We're going to work on our explosive power, so that might be our speed work. We're sprinting, we're jumping, we're maintaining that power training quality, and then working our way down the line from a priority standpoint. Then we'll get our strength training in, a little more strength endurance right now because it is a lot of body weight things, but we still do want to maintain as much as we can. And then again, so we'll have a push, and it'll say, you know, it could be push up, it can be grab a suitcase and press it overhead. You know, we give them those options, and it just kind of has all those things spelled out where they just kind of pick, okay, well, I know what a push is, I know what a pull is, like a row or a banded pull, something like that. But it's there for them. They've already seen these movements. We prepared them through the movements. We know they're doing them efficiently. Now it's just, okay, well, what do I have in my room that can make this work? And again, it is all stuff that is body weight. You can run and jump anywhere. It can be inside in your house. It could be outside. There's plenty of space out there. And then going down towards the bottom, you know, we supplied them with a lot of circuits so we can keep that conditioning level up. And then, like Coach Bert talked about, winter summer programs, they have their speed agility in there. They have their conditioning. It's not just for one size fits all. If you have a court, do it on a court. If you have a field, sand, this, that, the other, like, we have those options there. It's, you know, nothing went unnoticed. We just got to make sure that we're providing as many options as possible. So for those that are extremely limited, they do have something at least that they can do. And there's a lot of things that they can do with that.
So like with that body weight manual, and I'm sure there's a ton of other kind of specific manuals that you have, is that something that you have evergreen, like always ready to go? You always have it made, like, or you update it for situations?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's we call it a selection menu, and I actually got it from a mentor back in 2012, so it's definitely not new. It's something that we look to accommodate, especially a lot of international athletes. You never know where they're going home to or what they have there, so I've always had the manual for a while. Obviously, we always do tweaks and adjustments to it as we go, but it's like he said, it's a movement base, so it's going to have a numbers system. It's going to tell you a movement like a horizontal press, and then you're going to go to the whatever A1, and you'll see a list of exercises there that you can choose for whatever means that you have in that room, type of thing. So nothing has been too much recreating the wheel for us, because we always look to send them home with options, like Coach talked about, as far as field surfaces, things like that, as well as treadmill, elliptical, bike. We always have everything in there. And again, I think the biggest thing that we can do is instill that initiative into our athletes' head every single day. that the more we do that, that's when they go home and they don't need the kick in the butt from us. They can just pick up and go. They know it's what they're supposed to do if they want to be great and continue that championship culture.
Yeah, what's the key to keeping that like fire and motivation right now? Because it's definitely you can get in that mode or in that environment where you're like, it's not competition right now, but I still need to stay sharp. Like, how do you maintain that? What do you kind of recommend?
We try to instill it a lot within teams. So in the past, what we've had teams do is they do Google Docs, where they're kind of reporting or self-reporting, obviously during NCAA times that they can't report back to us or coaches. So they just kind of self-report that, but everybody on the team can open up that Google Docs and kind of see who's doing what, and maybe it's a time on a drill and they want to beat that time. So it kind of gets competitive back and forth. But I think we're blessed to have absolutely amazing athletes here that, I mean, my phone absolutely blew up in the first couple of days asking all sorts
I'm sure.
of stuff. So, so it's been good, and our kids are amazing here as far as taking that initiative and wanting to go out and do that and be competitive. And I mean, that's all the text I'm getting is, well, how can I do this and how can I get it faster or better or whatever. So that's great to see on their end, reaching out to us, but as well as doing it within their teams. I know they're all reaching out to each other, asking them what they're doing, are they pushing, how are they doing it, and things like that. So I think that's essential.
What was that? What were some of those conversations and what was the communication you were having, like right off the bat? What was that like, just getting everybody set?
It came quick because I think it was, I believe, a Thursday or a Friday it started to get announced previous to spring break. So I immediately tried to be as proactive as I could. I sent out a mass email on Friday to all coaches saying, bear with us. Obviously, we've got a lot of programs to get out in a short period of time. I don't think I made it through the weekend without receiving a handful of calls from athletes and things like that. So again, more power to them for doing that. And obviously my phone's always on for that type of stuff. So the initiative started right away. So that's when we decided, well, let's get the immediate plan that they know and that we've been doing out. It was the fastest thing that we could do as well. Is obviously we want to keep them under a bar as long as we could. So during that time when gyms were still open, we just need to get something in their hands immediately. So we did that on that following Monday. It came out pretty quickly, and then I think it was by Wednesday that we had all the programs out, that all the athletes were taken care of.
What have you guys learned so far about, has anything new come across your horizons or your mind about the industry or just in general? Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily say anything new. But one thing we've definitely learned is we've got a lot of issues with our push-up form, and that's a worldwide epidemic at this point.
We're seeing when a push-up it'll be exposed.
Oh yeah, we're seeing the arms out in a T,
plank, a push-up, whatever.
I may or may have not called out a couple athletes that I might have seen some videos on. That being said,
wide?
Too wide with it. Quarter range, half range.
That'll get you.
Not straighten the arms out. I mean, we could go on and on about that. But going back to your question, I mean, one thing that I found as far as with our industry that's been really refreshing to me, and Coach Bert touched on it a little bit, is just how open everyone has been. Everyone's using the social media platforms right now, and I think it's a great thing, but it's the best thing, the most refreshing thing for me is just how open everyone is. We're not saying like, this is top secret what we're doing. For the most part, I mean, we're doing similar movements throughout the country. Obviously, we have our own specific ways of how we want to go about different training methodologies, but at the end of the day, most things aren't new, and it's awesome now that people are kind of putting everything out there and really sharing everything. Those big Zoom meetings Coach was touching on earlier, almost every day I see for a different sport, like, hey, baseball strength coaches, we're doing this Zoom meeting today if you guys want to hop on. Like, everyone's been very open and reaching out and just trying to network and just be productive with this time that we do have, because we do have a lot more time than we're used to. So it's awesome that we're all being proactive and capitalizing on it, for sure.
What were some of the first things that you guys kind of talked about? Like, we really need to capitalize on this or do this. Yeah.
It's been a tough time. So we were down an employee this semester. So we actually had a new employee start on Monday of this week. So obviously everybody's already gone. So the first thing was obviously how can we get her acclimated onto campus and into what we do. But what it does is opens up the book on our department, where we're at as a department. First off, we've come I think, quite far in the past couple of years with developing our culture and our programming in our room, and then bringing quality coaches in, obviously. So it opens up the book for how we can continue to better our program, and that's something that we look to do all the time. So while practicing social distancing and doing the best we can with it, we're trying to communicate on a regular basis of filling our new coaches in with where we're at and how we got to where we're at, but as well as taking new ideas of where we can go in the future. So I think this is a great time to be able to step back and really assess our department. We can, not that we don't already, but rip through our policies procedure manual again, go through our intern manuals, redevelop things like that. So our exercise banks for these times and situations. So it's something we're going to continue to push and try to drive that we're going to continue to grow from a departmental standpoint. So as much as we can talk about all these social media things or podcasts and things that we can do for self-learning, we need to be selfless too and see how we can put it into the department and how we can better the Osprey logo as best we can.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really interesting things for us, and just speaking on maybe our external department, which I'm in, is you get even closer in a way. Like, in a way you're not close, but you are talking so much more because you have to talk and you have to think together and you have to create. And I'm sure that probably can be said for almost any group within the athletic department across the world now, because the industry is so fast, and every day turns into the next day and the next day, and you have competitions all the time, especially during our spring seasons with how many events we're playing, how many baseball games there are, how many softball games. I mean, beach and tennis don't play a short schedule either in terms of total events. So I mean, that's one of the unique things right now for sure.
It's a different world. Athletics is go.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
It's slowing down, and unfortunately, I think athletics was the first thing to take a hit with all this across the world, because there's just so much travel and so much human contact involved in it. So it was actually quite interesting to sit back and see athletics being almost the first thing shut down, and that's kind of what floored people, I guess, as far as what do you mean the NBA season's over? What do you mean MLB?
And that was the domino that really seemed weird when that one first came by, and that kind of initiated the other ones, it seemed like.
Yeah, it's the typical thing of when it happens to, you don't always see it, I guess, when it happens to you, but if it happens to a celebrity or a famous athlete, then all of a sudden it's real life. And it's unfortunate that people look at it that way, because I look at it a little bit differently as far as it's our life, and we got to walk in our shoes every day to make sure that we're doing the right things and protecting ourselves, or putting ourselves in the best position to succeed in our sport and things like that. It's awesome to look up to all these athletes and see what they're doing, but we got to be best where our feet are planted and make sure that we're doing the things right as well.
What are some of the best practices right now for staying in shape at home?
We heard this come up on a podcast briefly, and I think this is going to be something that's, for our field, not quite touched on as much. A lot of people are going to talk about what we're doing at home and take home manuals and things like that, but I think the NCAA best practices that came out and our return to play protocol is going to be essential when we get back on campus here. Sport coaches in general are one-track mind as far as their sport, and that's awesome. It's what they're supposed to be. So they're going to obviously expect kids to be in game shape day one when walking back on campus, and they always do. So that's just always the thought process for athletes. So it's our job to make sure that we follow the NCAA protocol and make sure that we're doing the right things to help acclimate these athletes as they come back on campus. As well as, again, I think we're blessed with amazing coaches here, and we've done a great job with getting out the new best practices to them this past year, and getting coaches on board with how we need to acclimate the athletes, that it's going to be easier and easier in every year for us here. So just getting coaches and reminding coaches that, especially from this break, when they step back on campus, we're going to have some work to do. And it's going to be across the country, so it's not necessarily like we're behind the eight ball on it. So I think everybody just needs to be patient as our athletes return, and just allow time for that acclimation to take place.
Are there any changes in other areas? Like, now you might be sitting a lot, you got to really focus on stretching, or if you're doing work, try to stand and work, or yeah, the perfect example there, or just staying hydrated, or kind of little odds and ends that just the general population can do.
Yeah. I mean, stretching, absolutely. Obviously, you're sitting a lot more, so people with back pain, knee pain, things like that, myself included, we definitely need to start getting in regular routines of movement. I think I mentioned it, before we got on air here. It tends to be when we take days off and sit around that body aches and pains come up. So being able to stay active during those times is definitely essential to our own health and well-being, as well as mental health and well-being. If we're sitting there sulking every day, and I think I heard it on the news this morning, make sure you still get up, get dressed, go about your daily life like that. If you're sitting, in your PJs all day on the couch, that's when you're going to feel like this is really drawn out. I think if you get up and try to do your regular life, if it's not going to work, well, maybe it's, it's cleaning the house, doing things around the house that keep you active. But by stopping movement, that's what really slows you down as a human. You got to make sure that you stay active in things.
Keeping that initiative.
Yeah, and I'll just go off that. And I mean, we do have so much time now. So this is the time where if you work 12, 14 hours a day, whatever it is, and you don't ever exercise, like, this is the time to start doing it. And you have every day, so it's not like you have to go and do an hour of work. It can start with 15, 20 minutes if we're talking general population. And whether it's general population or not, everyone knows, what they're not good at in terms of fitness. And what better time to work on those things? I mean, mastering your own body weight in itself is something that's important to have from just a training standpoint anyways. So why not capitalize on all this time to use your body weight? But same thing with running. You can go out and run right now. Like, we're not completely locked in our houses yet. So, while we still have that time, we can do that. Again, we have those circuits. But it is just understanding that you do have that time that you could take advantage of now. And it's not something that needs an hour, 2 hours a day, which is what a lot of people think. It's more just the consistency. So if you consistently get in a 20, 30-minute session compared to never doing anything, you're going to see a lot of improvements there. So I would take that time to start doing it now. And it's not where you're going to get into it and you're going to be so sore you can't walk the next day. It's a progressive, it's a gradual thing. So take advantage of it now, definitely.
And I think it's eye-opening for people because you're hearing immune system come out a lot. So obviously we got to keep our immune system healthy. And one thing that I hope kids aren't doing out there is the drinking and the partying, because that's doing nothing but break down your immune system and make you more susceptible to these things. So during these times, nutrition, it's awesome as a part of a performance team here, and what we assemble on campus is as far as different entities and avenues for our athletes to get out and have contact to nutritionists, to mental health specialists, to our rehab, our athletic trainers and things like that. All that stuff is important. And again, we educate them on that stuff on a daily basis. So when they're going home, hopefully they're well educated on nutrition, on like I said, the mental health side of it, of staying busy and make sure and they're staying in the right direction with things. All that stuff is very, very important to your health. Like I said, if you slow down in certain things, that's when the body really, really, really starts to slow down. So I think our athletes have been proactive with all that stuff, which is essential, especially for staying healthy. So
what do you think is the biggest takeaway that you guys will have as a whole, and then just our department will have, or athletics will have after this?
I think everybody just being more appreciative to what we did have. It would be interesting to see how people would react during this time without cell phones. So I mean, just pulling away daily life like this and taking out some things that you have as amenity every day, and that maybe other people don't have and other countries don't have. So I think the biggest take-home message, and obviously hear it over the news, and people are going to shake hands less and obviously wash their hands more and do all those little things. But from a health standpoint, as well as from a life standpoint, I think hopefully people realize that it's not always a fast track. Sometimes they need to slow down and like I said earlier on, just enjoy where you're at, where your feet are planted, because that's what's most important. And it is life, work and school and nutrition and fitness and all this stuff you want to put on the plate of any human. It's still all a part of life, and you need to make sure that you endure life and are appreciative for everything that we are able to do.
Anything you guys want to add or touch on?
I'd like to hear what you guys are doing. I mean, obviously these features are going to be great. We appreciate you definitely reaching out to us. I think it's a time to spread that fitness bug and then continue to spread it, and hopefully in the right manner. But what things are you guys doing to kind of stay stay active yourself as far as fitness.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of is similar in some sense to what you guys touched on. It's a combination of really utilizing the resources and things we've had in place and maximizing them. This is the time where our work in archives and almanacs and having information collected throughout the years is really beneficial, because we can look back on it and we can promote certain events or certain pieces of history, and then reaching out to people in their homes, and obviously you guys are here in front of us, but talking to them, talking to alums, and catching up with them right now is something that we have time for.
What about you? You're a runner.
I run still.
I know you're
Yeah, I run still. I mean, I ran that half marathon last February, this past month, and I had a little bit of a calf issue after that I'm still kind of working through, and I was taking a couple days at the start of this to nurse it, and I just got so restless that I was like, I need to run.
Gotta go.
So the bug just never really goes away. It's just an addiction. I think that's part of working out and running, and obviously trying to get creative on my own terms. I got an ab wheel. Get the push-ups going.
Yes,
It's just
sir.
just a little bit of a heart rate raise never hurts.
No.
But yeah, this is and it's a time for us in terms of work, though, to really catch up on things, and then also to just hone in on your health and hone in on your mental health and reflect and be purposeful and be creative. I mean, that's one of the most fun parts, is you really have to be creative. And we I've had conference calls with multiple people and conference SIDs and trying to learn about how to promote right now, because it's obviously a new landscape. So it'll be interesting, and I really want to I appreciate you guys talking, because I really want to just get around the department, and we want to be able to talk to as many people as possible, and many groups of people as possible right now.
Yeah, we do want to say that for people to follow us on social media at Osprey Strength, on Instagram, on Twitter, and we have an Osprey Fuel for Nutrition. Hopefully we'll be putting out some content coming up in the future here as far as at-home exercises. We'll try to get our Instagram up and going with some of the things like that. But we appreciate you highlighting us. Obviously, a lot of support staff and stuff are in the daily grind with athletes all the time, and we have a large impact on what they do on a daily basis. So we're blessed to be in the position that we're in, and very appreciative of our job every day.
Likewise, and that's the mentality that's key right now.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys so much for coming in today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully I'll be in touch and getting creative here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brock.
Once again, thank you for your guys' time. If you have any thoughts or stories that you would like shared as we go forward in Talon Talk, we will be open to hear from you guys. And of course, from our Osprey family to yours, stay safe, and we'll be back here next week.